Don't suddenly go out and cut off a major part of your meal. Your digestive system is used to getting, pizzas and burgers every day and rice and chapatis every day, and suddenly you're like, okay, oh, I'm going to switch it to ketogenic diets. Okay, when your physiology reacts not in a good way to certain kind of food elements. So again, what is the cause of that? What is the scientific and the biological cause, physiological cause to that? People who have created myths, I don't know what they're thinking. What do you think? Once you eat fish, once you drink milk and then you eat fish, what will happen? The fish will start, swimming in the milk in your stomach. What is the funny thing? That's I know, whatever. Hello everybody, my name is Rohit. I take physical education on behalf of Prep School by Vidhyaashram. In today's class, we will cover the third session of sports and nutrition. So if you haven't watched the second session, I recommend you go back and watch that session first and then come back and resume this session so you could understand the whole chapter more better and you could understand it seamlessly. So having said that, let's move on with the session overview where we'll try to understand what all things we'll be covering in today's session. We will study about the pitfalls of dieting, in which we'll study about various pitfalls of dieting. When you do diet, what all pitfalls you face, we'll be studying about that. After that, we will move on to food intolerance, where you will study about what exactly is food intolerance and how is it different from food poisoning. Because majority of the people have this confusion between food intolerance and food poisoning. Both of them are two different things. We'll try to understand the difference between them and I will clear your doubt about that confusion that you have. After that, we will see what all causes food intolerance, its symptoms, the management of food intolerance, and finally we will conclude this session with food myths. Okay, so what all myths are going around about food, about dieting, about eating different things and the combinations of different foods, and what all myths are related to that. We'll try to clear what all things are the myths and what all things are not scientifically proven. So first, we'll start off with the pitfalls of dieting. What all are the pitfalls of dieting? The first thing when you do for the first pitfall of dieting is extreme reduction of calorie. Okay, your calories will be extremely reduced, and this may sometimes give a little bit of problem to your body because that's why they say that reduction of calories or doing fasting or dieting, you have to keep it very gradual. It should slowly increase or slowly decrease the intensity of that. Don't suddenly go out and cut off a major part of your meal, or don't suddenly totally change your meal style. That will create problem with your body because your body is not as fast as your physiology is not as fast as your brain thinks. Okay, your brain may suddenly think tomorrow I'll just totally change my diet plan, but your physiology is not ready, your digestive system is not ready yet. Okay, your digestive system is used to getting pizzas and burgers every day and rice and chapatis every day, and suddenly you're like, okay, oh, I'm going to switch it to ketogenic diets. Tomorrow you're having all broccolis and different kind of dry fruits and stuff. Your stomach will be surprised. Your intestine will be surprised. Your digestive system will be surprised. Don't give such a surprise to your intestine system or a digestive system. Then it will be a problem for your body, and you will get all those problems in form of vomiting and nausea, and you will get different kind of body imbalances. So body doesn't work like that. Our body works very smoothly. The transition of certain things and certain processes and chemical changes in our body is very smooth. So you also keep it smooth so that the body's physiology, anatomy and the nervous system, everything runs very smoothly. So that's one thing that you have to keep in mind. The one pitfall of dieting is that extreme reduction of calories, and that causes what? That causes all the problems that I taught you about, okay, that I told just right now. So avoid that. Slowly, gradually do the dieting and slowly make changes to your meal. Just like I explained about converting your passive lifestyle into your active lifestyle, right? That transition should be smooth. It should not be a snap. Okay, that you should keep in mind. After that, you have the second point, that is restriction on some nutrients. So when you are switching diets, when you are switching different kind of diets, you are restricting certain nutrients which your body is used to. Which your body is used to, that certain nutrients you are restricting, and that again sudden change may cause certain lot of problems. So that's one of the pitfalls of dieting. Next, skipping meals, which is again totally not recommendable, but people do that. During dieting, people skip meals thinking that they can reduce the calorie just like that. And now this is very important. I told you to reduce the intake of the calorie that you're not burning, but that doesn't mean that you should totally shut off your daily eating time food. Okay, don't totally shut off your breakfast, totally cut off your lunch, or totally cut off your dinner. That should not happen. You should decrease the amount that you have per meal. That means in breakfast, whatever you used to have it less, but do have. Don't skip that meal and try to decrease the calorie. Don't say that, okay, anyways I have to eat 1800 calories per day, right? So okay, fine, I will eliminate the breakfast category from my lifestyle. I will rather have stomach full of lunch and stomach full of dinner, and that will balance everything out. Don't do like that. From your individual diet, individual meal, you have to decrease the number of calories, not one particular meal totally you have to cut off. So that's important. Skipping meal is again one pitfall of dieting, which many people do. Wrong way of dieting. Next, you have intake of calories through beverages. So try to try to avoid beverages. Okay, now what kind of beverages are we talking about? Beverages, we are talking about alcoholic contents and any kind of contents that contains carbohydrates. Okay, any kind of aerated drinks, okay, any kind of carbonated drinks, your Pepsi, Coca-Cola, or any kind of I won't name different all of them, but try to understand different kind of carbonated drinks that you consume, that you should avoid that. Once again, I won't tell you strictly to shut off that from your life, but once in a while if you feel like you can have, but don't make that a habit, because intake of calories through beverages again causes a lot of problem. So that's another pitfall of dieting. Then underestimating the calories. Now don't underestimate calories, like I said. Okay, don't underestimate the calories, because calories, you may take it lightly, you may consume certain things and say that, oh, what, once in a while I'm having, so let me stack up this. It's not an issue, it's okay, it's been a while since I had this, okay, let me have it, let me have that also. It's okay, it's just one cookie extra, right? It's okay, it's just one chapati extra, right? Okay, it's fine, it's just one bowl of rice extra, right? So just that feeling of just that casually when you're taking the calories, you don't know the power of calories. You will know after you take a snap of yourself, and see before and after for like 3 years or 1 year, then you will see, okay, how you used to look and how you used to look now. So that itself will show that how much of calories you ate, and it should reflect in your body. Daily, when you consume fat, or daily when you consume excessive amount of carbohydrates, it may not show up in your body. Did you see yourself grow when you were a kid, right? When you were a kid, now you're grown up. Have you seen yourself grow? Like literally I'm asking, have you seen yourself grow? No. But after 2 years, when you go back to your native, your parents or your grandparents or your relatives say, oh, last time you were this short, now you've grown this much. Okay, they say like that. Why? Because they have seen this point and this point. They did not see the growth. But you are looking at yourself every day in the mirror, so you will not realize that you're getting obese, or you're getting underweighted, or if you are normal weight, you will not realize that until you take a snap, and then you take another snap after 6 months or 8 months or 12 months, or after a long gap. So those kind of things will happen. Calories will do that kind of change in your picture in before and after if you don't take it seriously. So please don't underestimate the calories. That's the important point here. Calories should not be underestimated, otherwise it will show what power it has. So take calories seriously and consume it properly. Okay, whatever calories is not required by your body, please don't consume it. Having said that, let's move on to our next point, that is intake of labeled food. Now intake of labeled food here means what? It's a creative way of telling the point that it's a creative way of telling not to have the processed food. So whatever tin food you have, okay, whatever frozen food you have, whatever processed food you have, try to avoid that. Okay, any kind of pre-made food you get, any kind of ready-made food you get, all those things you try to avoid it. In emergency cases, I understand that. Suppose if you are going for a hiking, suppose if you're going for a camp, or suppose you're going for a hiking. In emergency cases, I can understand that. Suppose you're going for a hiking, suppose you're going for any kind of camp, Suppose you're going for any kind of trekking, and in the camp you have to prepare food. So you grabbed a cup noodles where you put a hot water and the food is ready. In those cases you can consume that because nobody expects you to bring your stove or your your induction cooker to your trip and then prepare food from the scratch there. In those emergency cases you can use it, but don't make that a habit in your regular day-to-day life. When you're living at your house, home or at your house, try to avoid processed or labeled foods. That's the point that is given over here. Okay, one other thing is not exercising. So when you have the idea of dieting, so when you have this habit of dieting, when you have this concept, when you have this concept implemented in your mind, then when you have this seed implemented or sowed in your mind that okay, I am doing fasting, I am doing dieting, why I need to do exercise? Dieting itself will fix all my weight problems, so I don't have to do exercising. That's totally wrong. Now one thing, many youth, right, many teenagers and many people, many youngsters have this in their mind is that you keep on doing exercise and you don't control your diet, then also you will be fit, right? People join their gyms. People join gyms in all the josh. They might have seen some inspirational video or something like that, and they get all inspired once suddenly, and next day they want to go and join the gym. They pay all the fees and then they go to gym. After 6 months they don't see any difference, and then they say that all these exercises are fake, all these exercises don't work, gym don't work and stuff like that, and then they quit. But the real reason is that, I'll tell you, 70% it's your diet and 30% is workout. 70% of your fitness is maintained by your diet itself. So if you go for workout, no matter how much you work out in your gym, you go for 8 hours of workout, you go for 10 hours of workout also, but if you're eating all the fast food after the workout, or your daily meal includes all the unwanted things, then obviously your body's weight will not decrease. So 70% is all about your body diet, 70% is about your body and what you eat, and after the 30% is your workout. So that you have to keep in mind. Okay, so not exercising is one pitfall of dieting which many people face, and people think that just dieting will resolve all the problem. Exercising is not needed. Either of the one thing is needed. If you're not dieting, you have to exercise. If you're exercising, you have to if you're dieting, then you don't have to exercise. So people think like that. So you have to avoid that thinking. It's not like that. It's totally wrong. It is 70% diet and 30% workout. Always keep in mind. So if your diet is perfect and then you have doing the workout, then your body itself will be perfect. And if you don't do any workout also, if you just control your diet, that itself will reduce a lot of calories, and that itself will control a lot of things in your body. So that thing you have to keep in mind. So having said that, hoping you understood all the different pitfalls of dieting, let's move on to our next topic, that is food intolerance. Now what do you mean by food intolerance? Food intolerance in layman's term, in a basic term, if I explain you, in a basic term, if I explain you, it is basically when your body doesn't allow certain kind of elements in the food, or if your body is allergic to certain kind of elements in your food. So let's have a formal definition, or try to understand it more, try to understand it more formally. Food intolerance is more common than food allergy. It's a term used widely for varied physiologically responses associated with particular food. Okay, so your physiology, what is physiology? Physiology is functional part of your body. When your physiology reacts differently, to certain kind of food, and not in a good way, okay, when your physiology reacts not in a good way to certain kind of food elements, that is called as food intolerance. Now some people are lactose intolerant, right? You might have heard about lactose intolerance. They don't consume dairy, they don't consume any dairy food, any kind of milk based food they don't consume, because they are lactose intolerant. So like that, many people are there who have certain allergy to certain food elements which they consume. They get a lot of problems like diarrhea, vomiting, nausea feeling, and a lot of different kind of feelings they get. So that is called as food intolerance. So that's a layman's term. In a common word, if you want to widely, if you normally want to say to somebody, if somebody asks what is food intolerance is what? What is food intolerance? If somebody normally asks you, food intolerance is something in some element in the food, some component in the food that doesn't go good with your physiology. And everybody has different body structures and anatomy and genetics. So what food your body might have that is different from others. Okay, so that you have to keep in mind. Your body is again different from others, so your food might be allergic to something else and the other person's body might be allergic to some other food elements. So that you have to keep in mind. Okay, so I hope you understood the food intolerance. Now certain people get confused between food intolerance and food poisoning. What is food poisoning? Whatever I said, that is food intolerance. Now what exactly is food poisoning? Food poisoning is when something bad or some bacteria or anything infected is contaminated in the food, and then when you consume that food and your body reacts to it, your body gets infected because of that food and it causes different kind of problem. That is called as food poisoning. Okay, so food intolerance and food poisoning is a two different thing. Whatever is there in food intolerance, okay, food intolerance is person to person based. Nothing is poisonous in the food that you have. Now this is one reason that many restaurants face in the feedbacks. Many restaurants, many hotels get bad reviews on their food or certain other things because of one confusion or misinterpretation of one small little thing, that is food poisoning and food intolerance. Certain people, for example, one person went to a hotel or one person went to a cafe. He had an ice cream from there. Next day, he fell sick because of that. And he started giving wrong feedbacks or bad feedback about the ice cream or the ice cream parlor in the different sites and different places, that the food that they gave was not good, it was poisoned, it was the food food was not good. I started getting diarrhea, started getting vomiting and all those stuffs. Now try to understand that person is not understanding that maybe that person is lactose intolerant. Okay, so that's one case. The same ice cream 1,000 other people may have had. Those people never got a problem, but this person got that problem and he gave that feedback like that, because this person doesn't know the concept of intolerance, food intolerance. So now you guys are clear and you won't be confused in the future. Anytime you get this kind of problem, try to understand that sometimes when your body doesn't get used to certain kind of food, it's not the problem of the food, it's the problem of your physiology. And it's not even the problem of the physiology. Everybody's genetics is different. Okay, everybody's genetics is different. So certain body reacts to certain food in a different way. My body will the way my body reacts to a certain food may not be the way your body reacts to a certain food. Okay, so that is different. So that thing itself is again food intolerance. So food intolerance is when certain elements, not the full food. Suppose if you have ice cream or suppose if you have any kind of food, not that full food has a problem. You are not having, suppose if you had a biryani, right? So you don't have problem with that full biryani itself. You have certain components or certain elements that they added in that. Maybe you have problem with any of those one single element in that which caused you food intolerance. So that is called as food intolerance. So suppose if that biryani was poisoned or some infection or some germs got into that or it was contaminated, that becomes food poisoning. So I hope that concept is very clear to you, because it's very important in the current era to understand the difference between food intolerance and food poisoning. It's a very important concept, because in your day-to-day life, you will face a situation where your body might not react to certain thing. That time you need to understand whether everybody who had the same thing is having the same problem, then that means it's a food poisoning. If only you are having the problem with the food that everybody consumed, then that's food intolerance. So then that means you have a problem with that particular kind of food. Okay, so having said that, hoping I made you understood in detail, in depth about food intolerance and the different aspects and angles of that. Now let's move on to our next part of food intolerance, that is what are the different causes of food intolerance, what causes different food intolerance to different people. First, it is caused by a part or complete absence of activity of the enzymes responsible for breaking down or absorbing the food elements. So whatever you consume, okay, whatever you consume, that complex components has to be converted into simpler compounds, and then the body has to take it. So certain enzymes that your body, certain chemicals that your body uses to process the food that you took in your digestive system, and if that enzymes are not able to process certain elements, obviously that component will not be taken by your body and it will throw out. Okay, it will show, your body will start reacting to it. Okay, your body is used to certain elements, your body's digestive systems, enzymes and different kind of chemicals that is used in digestion, like hydrochloric acids and everything, are used to certain kind of elements, and certain enzymes in your body are not capable of digesting or converting complex compounds that you took into simpler compounds in your food, certain food that makes you food intolerant to certain elements. So those little elements that your body did not process, that your body did not process, that is called as again food intolerance. So you're food intolerant to that particular element. So again, what is the cause of that? What is the scientific and the biological cause, physiological cause to that? Your body is simply not able to digest that component what we are talking about. Okay, whatever component in the food you are intolerant, that component your body is not able to digest. That's the reason why your body starts reacting in different ways, and you are again called food intolerant to that particular compound. That's the first cause. Second is, it can be due to illness too. So suppose if you have a fever, if you have any kind of illness, that also can cause food intolerance. So when you consult a doctor when you get a fever, when you consult a doctor when you get a fever or any kind of problem, he says that during this course of time, during this course of your disease or treatment, please don't consume this and this food. He says that, right? Don't eat spicy food, don't eat more of milk based food, don't eat this food, that food when you have different kind of diseases during the treatment or when you consume the tablets, right? So that is the reason why he tells you that certain illness. So if you eat certain food during certain illness also, you will get food intolerance. Okay, so that also is one second cause of food intolerance. Now let's try to understand the symptoms of food intolerance. What all causes, what all symptoms are there for food intolerance, and what all symptoms you show when you have food intolerance. First is that it can cause you nausea. Like I said, again you will get stomach pain, you'll get diarrhea, you will feel like vomiting, you will again have flatulence, you have gas, you have cramps, you will get again heartburns, headache, irritability and nervousness, and all these things you will be getting. So everybody who is food intolerant will not get all of it. These are some of the symptoms and the batches in which you may get it. And the first symptom, how you may get it and which pattern you may get it, differs to person. Okay, it differs from person to person, but the whole idea is all these different kind of symptoms, that is stomach pain, diarrhea, nausea, headaches and irritability, you feel like irritated, you get irritated very fast because mood fluctuations will come, you will get nervous, you again will have heartburns and headaches. All these kind of different symptoms will come again if you have food intolerance. Okay, so that is again the symptom for food intolerance. Now hoping you understood the symptoms and different causes and what exactly is food intolerance and the difference between the food intolerance and food poisoning. Now let's try to understand how to manage food intolerance. So how do you manage food intolerance? First, try minor changes in the diets. So if you're regularly getting food intolerance, check by changing your diets a little bit. Change the components of your diet to see if the food intolerance is going. So one by one you try to change the diet. So which time when you removed certain component and your body felt all right, that means so that last component that you removed from your food, that particular component you were intolerant to that. So you'll get to know like that. So certain minor changes to your diet if you do, you can again manage your food intolerance. Second thing is that seek medical help. Again, you can seek nutritionists and dietitians, and you can seek different kind of physiologists. Then he will also help you. That person also will help you to again manage your food intolerance. Having said that, let's move on to our third point, that is lactose intolerance or lactose intolerance therapy, or you have last histamine intolerance therapy. So again, people who are intolerant to lactose or people who are intolerant to histamine, so these kind of different kind of tolerance is there. So that also you have to avoid. People who are aware of lactose intolerance or histamine intolerance, they would obviously will not consume that because they know that if they consume they will get problem. But sometimes some people don't know that, and they know that by experience only. So once they get to know that, once they face that problem, then they seek the doctor, and the doctor finally finds out, okay, you have lactose intolerance. So that person realizes that point of time, and then he carry forward with no lactose food. So sometimes with time only you'll get to know if you are tolerant to any kind of food or not. But in otherwise case, the management is very simple. You have to try certain changes in your food, which will again, that is actually your self trial of fixing the problem. So first stage, you have to try fixing the problem yourself. So you change your diet a bit and you will see if that is fixing your problem. If that doesn't help, next you seek a medical help where you will be again getting to know by the doctor, by the professional advice, that what exact problem happened, what kind of food intolerance you are, or otherwise lactose intolerance therapy you have, then you have histamine intolerance therapy. These again are for two different category of intolerance that you can do to again manage your food intolerance. Okay, now hoping you understood different management tips and principles of food intolerance, let's move on to our next topic, that is different food myths related to food and what all different kind of myths people have about food. So the first myth that we have is potatoes makes you fat. Like I said, explained earlier, potatoes don't make you fat. That's a myth. Again, if you saturate that potato, if you boil that potato in, again, if you make French fries or if you do any kind of such things, if it becomes a saturated fat, if the carbohydrates, that is potato is the source of carbohydrates, if it gets added with the fat, then it becomes a problem. So basically consuming French fries will make you fat, obviously, but if you use boiled potatoes, if you have a potato curry or anything like that, or potato soup, that will not make you fat. It will just give you carbohydrates. Moving on to next, fat-free products will be helpful for you in losing weight. Now if your goal, like I said, what all are the steps to decrease or control your weight? In that first we studied, set your goal first. Okay, so if you are looking forward to decrease your weight because your BMI is showing obese or overweight, then you have to reduce fat content food in your, again, this thing. So but over here, as a myth, they are telling that fat-free products will help you in losing the weight. That is not the true case in every situation. Now if you just quit fat-free products, it will not make you slim automatically, because even excessive accessibility or excessive consumption of carbohydrates also will make you fat. Passive lifestyle also will make you fat. So if you're working at a certain place or if you're sitting at a certain place without moving or without doing any kind of physical activity, that also will make you fat. So reducing just the fat content from your food will not make you slim, okay, will not let you reduce your weight. So that's the second myth that they have. After that, eggs increase cholesterol level, so avoid them. That is not true. Okay, now eggs contain good cholesterol. You have bad cholesterol also, you have good cholesterol also, just like you have saturated and unsaturated fat. Okay, so eggs contain good cholesterol, plus egg is a very good source of, again, different minerals and different micro and macro minerals, including the protein also. So egg is a very good source of nutrients, so that won't cause you any kind of problem, and this is again one more myth. Next is drinking while eating makes you fat. That is again a myth. No such thing happens. So I want you to keep and register this in your mind. When you're drinking, when you're eating, if you drink, it will not make you fat. Okay, it just gives you the feeling of you are more full. Okay, when you're drinking and at the same time when you're eating, you feel your stomach is full earlier, before even before the full meal is complete, that feeling you get, but that doesn't make you fat. So that's a total different myth, okay, that you have to keep in mind. Anybody who ever says drinking while eating makes you fat, just deny them. Tell them you have studied this in your subject physical education as a food myth, that drinking while eating will not make anybody fat. That's a scientifically proven, again, myth. All of these topics all of these myths that we are covering, all of these food myths that we are covering, we are not randomly putting it as a statement. All of them are scientifically proven. So you can take this as a scientific certified myths. Okay, so don't worry about that. All of them are totally a myth. Next is don't take milk immediately after eating fish. Now what kind of myth is that? It's kind of a funny thing. Don't take milk immediately after eating fish. That also is a myth that goes on in many houses. Even in my house also, my old grandparents and all used to say that. I used to wonder why they say that. It's a superstition. It's a myth. It's not actually there. Then I corrected them and told them that's not the case. It's scientifically proven. It's just a myth. Don't worry about that. You can have milk, after eating fish or during eating fish or anything like that. Okay, so that's not a case. You don't have to worry about drinking milk during or immediately after eating fish. Okay, so what do you think? What do you think will happen? People who have created myth, I don't know what were they thinking. What do you think? Once you eat fish, once you drink milk and then you eat fish, what will happen? The fish will start swimming in the milk in your stomach. What is the funny thing? That's I know, whatever. It feels so funny when you study about that, okay, when you think about that. But understand that, guys, it's a total myth. Nothing will happen. fish will not swim in your stomach, in the milk, nothing will happen. So you can consume milk immediately after eating fish. That's a total myth. Okay. So having said that, let's move on to our next point or next myth, that is starve yourself if you want to lose weight. That's another thing that many YouTubers and the YouTube fitness people will tell. Starve yourself, for certain days, or cut down your diet, skip your meal, or all this kind of nonsense. It's a nonsense, a pure nonsense. Please try to understand. Skipping your meal or starving yourself won't make you fit. It will make you malnutrition. It will give you malnutrition, so you will face anemia and you will face a lot of problems. You will be a deficit of nutrients and you will face a lot of other problems. Your immunity system will go down, your blood level will decrease, your palpitations will increase. Okay, so all these kind of things will happen, so that you have to keep in mind. At last, we have exercise makes you eat more. Okay, what then? You have exercise makes you eat more. At last, you have exercise makes you eat more. Now that is not a case. Exercise drains your energy, so you feel hungry. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean directly that exercise makes you eat more. It's nothing like that. Okay, when your calories is burnt automatically, when you consume enough calorie in a day, keeping in mind the exercise that you're going to do, you will not be starving after the exercise also, because already the calorie is there in your body. Even after exercise, calorie is left in your body. So when do you starve? When do you feel hungry after the exercise? When you haven't had enough calorie and then you go for the exercise. So in the diet plans also, I have taught you before, you have pre-workout meal, you have during workout meal, and you have post-workout meal. So if you haven't had your pre-workout meal properly, obviously when you work out too much, if you drain out your calorie, your body will ask for calorie. That's how it is. That's how you feel hungry. It doesn't mean that exercising makes you hungry or eat more food like that. It's nothing like that. It's a myth. It's a myth also. And I think more than myths, it's one of those statements which people would have read from somewhere and misinterpreted. Okay, so I don't think it's a myth. It's a statement which somebody would have read it somewhere, and that person would have misunderstood or misinterpreted what the actual author of this wanted to say. He would have wanted to say that if you don't eat your pre-workout meal and then go for a workout, obviously after workout you will run out of calories and you will feel hungry. Then you feel like to eat more. But that doesn't mean that exercise makes you eat more. Okay, or exercise makes you fat or anything. Exercise makes you again hungry or anything like that. So hoping you understood all the different food myths. I hope you understood all the different categories that we studied in this chapter. So before I sign out, I want to recap. I want to give a quick recap of what all things we studied. First, we studied about what? We studied about what is a healthy weight. Then we studied about BMI. Then we studied about BMI benchmarks. Then we studied about what? Then we studied about food myths. Then we studied about different kind of food intolerances, difference between food poisoning and food intolerance, management of it, symptoms, causes, and finally we concluded the chapter with some of the funny myths that goes around in the society and in our families also, which certain people believe. Now every time those myths when you hear, you have to tell them and prove them that no, all of them are myths, and I have studied that from the physical education class that I had. Okay, so having said that, hoping you saw the first session, the second session of this chapter, hoping you understood third session. This is me, Rohit, signing out. Until next time, goodbye.